Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Peter Miller from No Roads Expeditions, and tonight we're going to talk about the Gran Paradiso, or what I like to call Italy's answer to the Tour de Mont Blanc. The Gran Paradiso is in northern Italy, and we'll talk about exactly where it is a little bit later. But for me, it's one of the best treks on the planet, definitely one of the best treks in Europe. But not many people have heard about it. It's right near some of the great and more famous trails, such as the Tour de Mont Blanc and the Alta Via 1 and Alta Via 2. But the Gran Paradiso trail that we walk cuts through a couple of these trails and makes a whole new trek that very, very few people get to do. So what I'll do, I'll get started, and I'll just share the screen. So just give us a second. And here we go. Okay, so as I mentioned, the Gran Paradiso is in northern Italy, but what we'll do is I'll just go through who No Roads Expeditions is and some of our team and a few little bits and pieces, and then we'll talk about the actual trek itself, if that's okay. So let's get started. We've been operating in Europe since 2010. And we started with the Tour de Mont Blanc, but now we've moved into other areas, including the Gran Paradiso, the Monte Rosa, the Dolomites as well. And we only use fully qualified mountain guides, mountaineering guides, and guides who have first aid training, all from Europe as well. So they're either IFMGA certified or UMLA certified. And these are the international standards for mountain guides. All our guides are multilingual and they're guest focused. Their full safety equipment is carried, including telephone communications and first aid kits. And we've combined trails to present a comprehensive journey for you. So, for example, the Gran Paradiso is made up of a couple of smaller treks that you can do. And what we've done is we've connected them all together, so they've become one trail, effectively. Okay, so your team are, as I said, all European guides, and there's some are from Italy, most are from Italy, some are Spanish, some are French, but they all of them have a comprehensive knowledge of the area in which you're going to be working. They've either walked the Gran Paradiso many times, and so they know the area very, very well. Their first priority is your safety, which is our first priority as well. They're committed to helping you achieve your goal, which is obviously to finish the trek, and it's very attainable, and also to taste the local cuisine and to walk these beautiful trails and get to be immersed in the culture. So they're going to help you achieve that as well. They're passionate about local communities, so they know all about the local communities and the various cultures. You could be walking into 3 or 4 different valleys of the Aosta area, and each has its own unique culture. And they're all experienced remote guides. So this trek, probably more than the Tour de Mont Blanc for sure, is more remote, and therefore you need to have a remote guide that can be there to ensure your safety. Okay, let's have a look at what to pack just really quickly. Of course, you'll need your hiking boots, waterproof boots, of course, and you can give us a call or send us an email, and we'll let you know exactly what sort of boots you might need. Trekking poles are going to be essential on this trip. There's some challenging ascents and descents, so trekking poles for sure. You'll need a day pack to carry your stuff during the day, but your luggage will be transported to the next accommodation, so you don't have to worry about lugging a big backpack. And you'll need layered clothing. So you do get to areas where it could get cold, so but there can also be very warm days as well. So our trip in this year is in July, so it'll be quite warm down in the valleys and can be quite brisk and cold further up in the mountains. And because it's at Gran Paradiso, there are some 3,000-meter passes that we do, and we'll be staying up high up in the mountains as well. So a little bit of warm clothing is very, very important. But we'll send you a comprehensive list once you book. One of the main things that we need to focus on before we head off to the Gran Paradiso is our fitness. And it's important that you're as fit as possible. So basically, we're asking you to walk with a backpack up and down hills at least once a week. If you need to get a personal trainer. Don't forget to build up your core strength as well as your legs. We can provide you with a basic training program, but we also have an online program that you can use your phone on. It's a 14-week program put together by the LAT team, who have been working with for many years in Kokoda and in Europe, and they get all their groups fit for these trips, including the Gran Paradiso, and they've put this program together for you on the phone. It's $149 if you book through No Roads for the trip, and that's a 14-week program to get you ready for the Gran Paradiso. All right, so the Gran Paradiso trek is in what's called the Gran Paradiso National Park, and it's the oldest national park in Italy. It was established in 1922, and it was formerly the hunting ground for the royalty of Italy and the last king of Italy. As such, a lot of the wildlife was killed through hunting, and the ibex, the alpine ibex, which we'll see on the trek, was down to 60 ibex. The trails that we walk on were used by the king and his entourage to get around the park and to get his equipment around the park. So the trails themselves mostly are at a very nice incline. So the actual hiking is not too intense. There's a couple of little passes where we have to zigzag up, but generally speaking, the inclines and declines are not too bad on this trail. And you can see here's some what we would say shocking photos now from the hunting grounds when they were used, and you can see these dozens of ibex just shot by the king and their entourage. In fact, what he would do is he would stay in his little tent, and they would send a team out with the dogs and force the wildlife towards the king, so he didn't even have to travel to shoot the animals. But now it's been turned into a reserve and is now basically a reserve for wildlife, and it was actually used to bring back the ibex, and those ibex have now been taken to other national parks throughout Europe to then repopulate. But there's about 4,000 ibex now in the Gran Paradiso National Park. That's a lot. There's chamois, red foxes, marmots, there's the golden eagle, and now there's even stories of wolves and bears have been spotted now in the national park. So it's very it's more of a wilderness in a lot of the areas, which is quite different to, say, the Tour de Mont Blanc, for example. And this is an ibex standing up from the hoof to the top of the horns. Would be 5 to 6 feet. Beautiful animal. The park also includes the Gran Paradiso Massif, which is a 4,000-meter peak, and it's the only 4,000-meter peak that's entirely in Italy. So even though Mont Blanc, or in Italian Monte Bianco, is in Italy, it shares its border with France. But this is the only 4,000-meter peak that's all in Italy. And of course, on the top of the peak is a statue of Mary. And the Gran Paradiso National Park also travels through 4 distinct valleys in the Aosta region. Each has its own culture and cuisine, which you'll taste along the way. They're quite distinct, and it's a wonderful experience. So let's have a look exactly where the Gran Paradiso National Park is. And as you can see here on the map, at the top left is it's in the northwest part of Italy, on the border, near the border of France, and not very far from Mont Blanc itself. Okay, and this is the trail that we will be taking. So I'll just zoom in a little bit, and we'll be starting in Aosta, and you can see Mont Blanc is just up the road from there. But we'll be heading south down into Cogna, across Col de Lauson, which is to 3,300 meters. And then we'll head up along here through the base of the Gran Paradiso Massif. So we see Gran Paradiso from every side. And then we'll head back over Col Nivellet down to Cerosole Reale, and then out of Osca, and then all the way to Torino. So it's a 75-kilometer journey. There's about 100,000 steps, and it's a 6,000 meters ascent and 6,000 meter descent. Okay. The journey itself starts in the beautiful town of Aosta, and this is an old Roman town. It was the furthest town, or the closest town to the Alps, and it was a town full of towers, and it's where where the Romans used to collect a lot of taxes as well. I made sure that everything that was transported over the Alps came through Aosta. It's now a pedestrian town. And there's just beautiful shops there, beautiful Italian food, and it's surrounded by these beautiful mountains. But from Aosta, we head to Cogna and to the one side of the Alps, one side of the Gran Paradiso Massif itself. And this is on the way to Alpes Moni, which is one of our day trips. And this is also along that journey as well. And we stay in a little hotel. I'll talk about the hotels in Konya, but Konya is a beautiful little town. And in fact, Konya is very famous in winter. It gets so cold in this valley that a lot of the waterfalls ice over during winter, and a lot of ice climbers go there to climb. And then from there, we head up towards the other side of the Massif, and this is all along the same trails as the king walked. This Refugio Vittorio Sella, this is one of the old hunting buildings that was built for the king, and we stay in here. This is considered a refugio. We try not to get the dorms. We'll try to get like four beds to a room for these places, but it's a wonderful location. And from there, we go over the highest pass, which is 3,300 meters. And it's a very sort of rugged trail. And at that height, there's no trees or anything. But on the other side of this pass, so this is this one side, and then the next shot I'll show you is a little bit of footage from a drone, and you'll see what sort of view it welcomes you on the other side behind these people. Okay, so it might be a little bit staggered because of the internet, but we'll get going on it anyway. So this is the other side, of that pass, and you'll see as the camera pans around, and this is the valley that we'll walk into, and so we're walking down into a new valley. It's just incredible, incredible scenery. This is the ibex, which you would have seen in the last photo. Just amazing to see them. They don't feel threatened when we are near them. I guess they don't have any real predators anymore, other than wolves, possibly. But they're very relaxed. Here's the group at one of the high passes again. And again, you can see it's a lot higher than, for example, the Tour de Mont Blanc, which is, 300 or 400 meters lower than this normally. So you're really up high and high up into the mountains on the Gran Paradiso. Very high, close to the glaciers and the snow-capped peaks. So you get very close to them. And you can see here how close we are to those summits, which you get a little bit of in the Tour de Mont Blanc, but nothing quite as close as this. This is Alpes Moni, and you can see the glaciers above spilling down the mountain. Of course, they would have spilled all the way down in years gone by, but it's completely beautiful scenery, and this is where we'll have a picnic lunch. And here's the King's Trail. It's been refurbished by the rangers. So this is exactly what the king would have walked on and his entourage would have walked on. King probably didn't walk on it. King was probably in a carriage. But we walk along the same trails. And it's one of the high altitude lakes that we'll come across quite a bit on the Gran Paradiso. So that's the sort of the landscape that we'll experience on the Gran Paradiso. I want to talk to you about the accommodation on the trail because there's three types on this journey. And the first one is a bit of luxury. So in Torino, we stay at the Grand Sitia, which is a beautiful hotel in the heart of Torino and made famous not just by its luxury, but by the tortoises that live in the garden area, just behind those red curtains. There's these tortoises that roam around, about 8 or 9 of them. It's quite interesting. But this is a great hotel. And then in Konya, we also stay in a beautiful hotel and also in Aosta. So these are all luxury hotels in those three centres. And then we have a little bit of boutique. So these are then up in the more remote valleys, and we'll be staying in places like Pont and Erderus. These are smaller boutique little hotels, family-run hotels that will be staying in Serra Reale as well. So yeah, so these are very nice little places, very comfortable, very clean, and yeah, and just very unique to the area. And then because the Gran Paradiso is such a high trail, there are 2 nights to connect the trails that we're trying to do. We need to stay in the refugios, and there's 2 refugios we stay at. One is at Chabod, and one is at Vittoria Cellar. And this is the insides. It's a bit similar to this. So they're very basic, little beds in small rooms, but they have great food, and they made a great cake for us on this particular occasion. But yeah, and there's a lot of people there, and it's a very vibrant place, especially a place like Refugio Chabod, where there's a lot of mountaineers going to climb the Gran Paradiso the next morning. So it's all, yeah, very a lot of energy in the refugios. Okay, one of the highlights I think on the Gran Paradiso, other than the landscape, is the food. Yeah, and this is just a small sample. This is just a little breakfast that we have in one of the hotels. This is not even in one of the luxury hotels. This is one of the boutique hotels. So there's lots of fruit and baked items and yogurts and cakes and cheeses. And this is in Noasca, and this place had the best food on the trail. It was a really small hotel, and this woman just cooks all of her own food, and she cooked all of these cakes. And then I'm talking about like wild boar ragu, which they just make that morning, or yeah, some other handmade pastas, and it's just incredible. It's just very, very good. Of course, the beautiful pizzas in various places, a glass of wine. This is sort of it's our baguettes, and we will do a couple of picnic lunches. So we'll have baguettes with cheese and meat, tomato. If there's any dietary requirements, we can cater for them. And we will have fruit as well on those days as well. And then, of course, everywhere is gelato. So we get stuck into the gelati. So it sounds like we're a bit obsessed with food, but food does make us all very happy and makes the trekking a lot more fun. All right. This section is called Dare to Compare, and I'm daring to compare to the Tour de Mont Blanc because everyone talks about the Tour de Mont Blanc, so which is the sort of the next mountain across. So I just want to compare that trek with the Gran Paradiso. On the Tour de Mont Blanc, it's 9 days on the trail and about 130 or 40 kilometers in distance. And on the Gran Paradiso, it's 8 days on the trail and about 75 or 80 kilometers. So there's quite a substantial difference. The average height, though, that you're at on the Tour de Mont Blanc is around 1,900 meters, whereas on the Gran Paradiso, it's around 2,600. So you're at a much higher altitude, you're 700 meters higher. Not at a height where you're going to be suffering from altitude sickness, but it'll just get you up there above the tree line to see all of the beautiful glaciers and the snow-capped summits. It's just incredible views on the tour on the Gran Paradiso. You have Swiss, Italian, and French hospitality. I mentioned that because the Italian, of course, is very welcoming. The French and the Swiss can be a little bit hit and miss on the Tour de Mont Blanc, but on the Gran Paradiso, it's all great Italian hospitality throughout. The cuisine is mixed. So on the Tour de Mont Blanc, so you have French, Italian, and Swiss. And again, the French and Italian is excellent. Swiss can be sometimes really great, sometimes not as good, whereas on the Gran Paradiso, you have great Italian cuisine throughout with all these specialties from the various valleys. You have mixed views of the summits on the Tour de Mont Blanc. So sometimes you see the summits, sometimes you don't. Don't get me wrong, Tour de Mont Blanc has sublime views, but the Gran Paradiso has much closer views to the glaciers and the summits, and it's more a more rugged trail, but it's definitely gets you up very high, very close to the summits. The Tour de Mont Blanc is a perfect gateway to France, which is a great country, and Gran Paradiso is a perfect gateway to Italy. So from Torino, where you'll finish, is very easy to get to Milan, to Verona, to Venice, and then further south to Tuscany and down to Rome. The Tour de Mont Blanc can get busy. So we only run trips during the June, July, and September time period normally, because August can get busy. Whereas the Gran Paradiso, there's not so many people. There'll be days, maybe some days where you may not even see a person on the trail itself. So, which is very, very nice. A very great wilderness trip. And actually, the Gran Paradiso abuts the Vanoise national park in France, and combined, those two national parks combined make the largest natural reserve in Western Europe. So yeah, it's an amazing place. All right, let's finish off with the journey summary. So the trip is 10 days long, ex-Aosta, which is in northern Italy. And we'll let you know how to get to Aosta. It's quite easy to get to from Milan. There's boutique accommodation throughout the trip. It starts in Aosta and ends in Torino. So you're going to get these two different places that you start and end. There's a guide throughout the journey from the very beginning to the end. It's fully supported. So you just need to carry a day pack, and then your main pack will be sent on. The days that you do need to carry a little bit more will be the days that you stay in the refugios, because we're going to go from one valley to the next. So you just need to carry a little bit more in your day pack, just in case it gets a bit cold or rainy or whatever. So all transfers are included in the trip. There's a town tour in Aosta is included. There's 2 nights in the refugios. So there's the boutique accommodation, there's a luxury accommodation, and then there's the 2 nights in refugios. And it's $5,100 per person twin share. And that's ex-Aosta. Okay. I hope that sort of explained everything. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to contact me. I'll be shooting out an email to everybody on the who registered tonight with a summary. And as I said, we're recording this, so I'll send you a link to this as well, and you can forward it on to friends as well. And then and hopefully we can see some of you booked on this year's Gran Paradiso trip in Italy. Thank you everybody for coming tonight, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully in Europe sometime later this year. Ciao.